I'm going to show you how to fix your thoracic outlet syndrome so fast that you're going to forget that you even had it. Because let's be real, you've been trying to get rid of your pain, but the only advice you ever get online is going to be stretch these muscles or exercise these. And that's why I'm going to be sharing with you my 3-step blueprint that's not only going to help you get rid of your pain fast, but also help you keep it away for good. Oh, and by the way, my name's Adam. I'm the owner of trainingmassage.com, and I've helped thousands of people get rid of their thoracic outlet syndrome pain with online videos and programs. So let's get into it. Now, the first step in this 3-step plan is probably the most important because it is the one step that's going to help you get rid of your pain the fastest, because it actually targets the areas that's creating that compression on your nerves and blood vessels in the first place. And when it comes to step number 1, I like to call it release. Now, I first figured this out back in my corrective exercise class, which for a lot of you who don't know, is basically physical therapy classes for personal trainers, where you get to learn the mechanics, the exercises for different pains and things like that, right? Real surface level stuff. And I don't know why, but whenever they mention the term self-myofascial release, it basically caught my attention and stuck with me throughout the entire course. So much so that I decided to spend the next 2 years going to massage school, spending over $10,000 to $20,000 and over 750 hours of my time, all just to learn how to perform a myofascial release. And I'm really happy it did, because not only did it show me how personal training and massage go hand in hand, which I'll get to in a little bit, but it also showed me the exact steps I needed to do to get rid of my own pain fast and to help others get rid of their TOS. You see, the reason why you have thoracic outlet syndrome is because somewhere in the body there is compression on your nerves and blood vessels, which is usually due to the muscles or the fascia system around it. So a prime example of that is your scalenes, which is 3 neck muscles all right next to each other. Those 3 scalenes that I'm talking about are right here, located on the side of the neck. Now, why are these important? The reason why this is important is because this is going to be a prime example on how this three-step blueprint actually works. Because here we can see the nerves and the blood vessels that run right between these scalene muscles. And this is important because I'm going to be using this as my example, as an analogy for something else. So going back to the release portion, the reason why there is compression on those nerves and blood vessels is thanks to those muscles being overused and being chronically shortened and locked in that position. You see, normally your head will be able to move side to side because both sides have even length. But through time and time again, we end up using one side or another, which will make that side basically shorten. The more you use it, the more it shortens, right? As you can see here, those blood vessels and those nerves don't have any more space between those muscles. So anytime you move your neck or you end up using it too much, they can create compression on those nerves and blood vessels. And this is why releasing them with self-myofascial release techniques is the very first step you need to do in order to not only get rid of your pain fast, but also to set yourself up for success with the next couple of steps. And a quick analogy here, if we just take a look at this as a crooked tent, then we can easily see how this would actually work. Here we have the pole, which would be the neck and the head. And then we have the ropes on one side. Now here we have the shorter rope, and then we have the longer rope. We can see the same thing here, shorter side, longer side, right? Well, in this tiny side, we have a bunch of knots in our tent, right? The knots got tangled up because it's been there forever. We haven't been using it much. So therefore it gets knotted up, the rope gets smaller, and the tent becomes crooked. Well, the first step you're going to do here is going to be trying to release all those different knots right there, right? And that right there is going to help you, let me try to get that back. And that right there is going to help you actually loosen up that neck and allow those nerves and blood vessels space to move between those muscles and you not to feel that pain immediately. This right here is probably all you need to do just to start feeling relief. But if you stop here, then your pain is pretty much guaranteed to come back. And that's why we move on to step number 2. Now, step number 2 is not only important because you want to try to create space within your joints, but also between the muscles and the nerves and blood vessels. But it's also important because it's also going to help you improve your posture and maybe even stand a little taller. Now, that second stage I'm talking about is called restore. Now, restore, right? The whole point of restoring is to try to lengthen those same tissues that you just released. Now, I always believed stretching was important from the very first time I took my first personal training class back in the Army in like 2012, 2011, all the way until my massage classes and even my posture training classes, right? But for me, I never actually felt any difference regardless of how I stretched it. Didn't matter if I did a static stretch for 30 seconds up to 5 minutes. It didn't matter if I did a PNF stretch where I manipulated the nervous system and those muscles to get a little more length. It didn't matter because they always felt tight regardless of what I did. But that was until I actually released the tissues before stretching. You see, when you release those tissues, right, we end up back in this situation here. We have the knots out of the neck or out of the muscle that we're working on. Those nerves and blood vessels have some space to go through. But now, if we don't improve that crooked tent in this situation or our neck muscles, then we are basically repositioning ourselves. We are setting ourselves up for failure to get back into that tightness, to get those knots and those trigger points that created that pain in the first place. So in order to do this, this is when we actually stretch out those muscles we just released. Because by stretching out those muscles, this crooked tent can now stand straight. This rope is now lengthened and this rope is now lengthened, right? We went from a tight neck on one side, released it, stretched it out, and now we have a crooked tent that went to straight. We have a normal posture in our head. And this right here gives you the ability to not only open up the space, again, like I said, in the neck muscles, but also helps your joints as well if you're getting those pinchy sensations in the joints, specifically like in the cervical spine, like C6 or C7, like I'm sure most of you have as well. The point here is that by releasing and then restoring the same tissues, you are able to not only get rid of the tightness and the pain fast, but you're then able to stretch those tissues out much easier, and it's more effective because the knots aren't there anymore. And this now brings us to step number 3, which is probably one of the most important if you don't want your pain to come back, and that is to retrain the other muscles. So here, if we once again take a look at our crooked tent, which is now straight, we're going to move this over. Once we're done releasing those tissues, straining everything out, we can now anchor this muscle. We can strengthen these muscles on the other side to secure that better posture, that better tent position in our analogy here, and in this case, our neck posture. So if we take a look at the scalenes once again, you can see that, yes, there's scalenes on one side, but we obviously have some on the other side. And by strengthening one side, we're able to help compensate that other side from getting tighter. This is probably one of the most basic examples I can give you when it comes to thoracic outlet syndrome. But let's actually take a look at another example that is a little more prominent that you might have probably even had to do already. One exercise a lot of people end up doing for thoracic outlet syndrome is to try to strengthen the rhomboids. They do face pulls, front pulls, back exercises, all to strengthen this muscle. But why is that? It's because they're trying to strengthen this muscle here, this original one, without releasing the tight side first. You see, going back again, we can see that this muscle attaches to the scapula. That scapula is our pole here, right? It's crooked. Guess where else that scapula attaches to? To that pec minor. When the pec minor gets tight, not only will it compress on all these nerves and blood vessels that run right behind it, but because it gets shortened and because it's anchored to the chest, it's going to pull the mobile scapula, the one that has more mobility, towards the chest, towards the midline. So it pulls the scapula down, which then pulls the rhomboids and stretches them out, making them weak. This is why your PT tries to strengthen the rhomboids. And don't get me wrong, they can actually do this and they can actually see improvements in your TOS by just strengthening the rhomboids, but that's only going to take like 6 to 12 months for them to get strong enough to counteract not only the crooked joints, but also the tight muscles that you use every single day. These are your 3 steps to getting rid of your pain for your thoracic outlet syndrome and keeping it away. You need to first release those knots in the tight muscles that's creating that compression in the first place, right? Scalene, subclavius, pec minor, coracobrachialis. These are all common areas for TOS, for compression on those areas, on the nerves and blood vessels. Once you're done releasing those muscles with self-myofascial techniques, self-massage techniques, you then stretch those tissues out to lengthen it up, to open up that space, to give those nerves and blood vessels more room to breathe. And then you finish up by training that other side in order to anchor everything down, to secure a better position, to make sure those muscles don't just get tight again and prevent that pain from returning. Getting rid of thoracic outlet syndrome requires several treatments at a time and not just one. You can't call the body complicated and then try to only treat it with one type of treatment. That doesn't make any sense. Just like how yin and yang need to constantly be pushing and pulling back and forth to remain in balance, your body needs the same thing when it comes to treatments to keep that equilibrium and remain pain-free. Your body needs both massage and training to get out of pain faster than just training alone. And if you want to try out this simple blueprint, then make sure to check out the video up in this top corner. Or if you're ready to get rid of your TOS pain now, then make sure to check out one of my programs that's helped thousands of people already. I'll see you on the inside.